Good evening, friends. Thank you for taking time out today, and we hope that this special session will be informative. We have now been through, two major events in this financial year: the elections and as well as the union budget. And I think now most what we will wait for is basically the results to now kick in. And I think as regards the budget is concerned, I think as far as we are concerned, there have been some sweeping changes with regard to the capital gains tax. I know, and there are different views out but at net, obviously your liability for paying tax has actually gone up. Now, what will be the impact of the budget and its macro implications? We cannot think of anyone better than Nilesh Bhai to decipher it. So it gives me, immense pleasure to introduce to you all Nilesh Shah, Managing Director at Kotak Mutual Fund, a very versatile speaker, as I'm sure you all have heard also before, with all the relevant data. And it's always a pleasure to listen to his views, not only of the equity market, but the macroeconomic fundamentals. Just to set the tone, the market in the current financial year has seen the large cap Nifty is actually gone up by nearly 9%. The mid cap and small caps are still going very strong at 19 and 22%. So the run up on mid cap and small cap just continues. The FI participation, which had been negative in the financial year 21-22 and 22-23, had turned hugely positive in 23-24. And even in the current financial year, they continue to be positive as we talk. As regards the domestic, institutions are concerned, including the mutual funds and insurance, the trend has been, positive in the last financial year. And in fact, even when we look at the YOY basis, in fact, nearly 1.32 lakh crore has been invested versus a negative 735 crores during the same period last year. Just to give a brief introduction of Nilesh Bhai, he is a rank holder, gold medalist chartered accountant. He started his career with ICICI Prudential and then he had moved on to Franklin Templeton. He also had a stint with Axis Securities before taking over the reins in Kotak Mutual Fund in January 2015. So now looking at completing over a decade over there. Under his guidance, I think Kotak has seen a huge jump in its AUM, nearly six times from I think what was 40,000 odd crores in 2015 to around 2.5 lakh crores in at the end of 24. Nilesh Bhai is also a part-time member on the Economic Advisory Council to the PM's office and the UIDAI. He is a board member of AMFI, the governing body for mutual funds, and until last year he was also the president. And he's also a member of the Corporate Bonds and Securitization Committee of SEBI. Thank you for taking time out for us today. And over to you, Nilesh Bhai, to share your thoughts on the budget.
Thank you, Juzer bhai. I'll just start the presentation sharing. Just ignore the HSBC logo. I'm using old presentation. So if we look at election result, it really changed the landscape. And some of the policies like Uniform Civil Code, Population Control Bill, One Nation, One Election, pension reforms, etc., now they are buried. In coalition government, this cannot come out again. Now, if this is not done, will it impact our growth by a big margin? Answer is no. So we can live with it. There are few things which in coalition government also can be done, like infrastructure investment, renewable energy push, digital India, UPI, Aadhaar, consumption boost, special welfare schemes for bottom of the pyramid, defense and R&D boost because of the geopolitical risk, urban housing, as most of the Indian cities have large population living in slums, path of fiscal prudence. I think there will be agreement to do this, and this will sustain our growth. This will continue to keep us fastest growing major economy. There are things like asset monetization, free trade agreements, ease of doing business in incremental manner. This again is non-disputable. This also will be pushed, but this is not going to change our growth trajectory by a big margin. Few things, unfortunately, will get sacrificed at the altar of coalition politics. Land reform, labor reform, farm reform. When there was majority government, we cannot convince farmers to accept farm laws. Now, in a coalition government, that will be very difficult. Judicial reforms, strategic divestment like Air India, GST rationalization. These reforms are critical for sustaining India's growth, but unfortunately, it will be put on the back burner. We have to hope and pray that these reforms are so good that they can compensate for non-happening of these reforms. Now let's look at the budget. On the day of the budget, it was like Mughal-e-Azam budget. What do I mean by this? In Mughal-e-Azam, Prithviraj Kapoor tells Madhubala one dialogue. अनारकली, सलीम की मोहब्बत तुम्हें मरने नहीं देगी और हम महाबली अकबर तुम्हें जीने नहीं देंगे. Our equity market also got sandwiched between capital gains tax, which was revised upwards, and the fiscal prudence, which was put on the table. And which is why, despite capital gains tax announcement, market almost closed at the budget level. What did market like in the budget? Market liked in the budget that we are pursuing the path of fiscal prudence. But uska matlab kya? We are putting less burden on our next generation. जितनी चद्दर लंबी हो, उतने ही पैर फैलाओ. This budget is a step in that direction. First time, our combined fiscal deficit between center and state came below 8%. Undoubtedly, we are still adding burden to our next generation, but पहले की अवेज में कम कर रहे हैं. What should this result into? Well, it should result into our credit rating upgrade. Today, we are treated near junk level. Hopefully, our rating will get upgraded if we can bring this combined fiscal deficit to below 7%. If rating upgrade happens, cost of capital comes down. Consequently, market valuation will go up. Now, look at this. Fiscal deficit minus interest is primary deficit. From 2014 to from 2012 onwards, we started reducing primary deficit. And in 2019, it was around 0.5%. Thanks to COVID, it had to go up, but now it is again coming down. We believe India probably will have primary surplus in 2027 or 2028. If that happens, our rating upgrade and reduction in cost of capital is most likely to happen. Now, why should we worry about fiscal prudence? Well, this is a chart in Spanish, but this gives the per capita rank of Argentina. From 1875 till 1947, Argentina was top 10 economies in the world on a per capita basis. There were periods when they were richer than America and European countries. Consistently for almost 100 years, they remain in top 10 richest countries of the world. In 1947, around the same time we got independence, they started following socialist policy. रेवड़ी distribute करना चालू किया, and see where are they today. Their per capita income nosedived for last 70 years, and from being top 10 economies of the top 10 richest countries in the world, they are somewhere now in the middle. This is the importance of fiscal prudence. Glad that India is following that path. एक लोगों में सवाल उठता है कि मैं इतना टैक्स भरता हूं, सरकार मुझे क्या देती है? वेल, यहां पे देखिए, ये लाल लाइन आपका पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स कंट्रीब्यूशन है. In a country of 144 crore people, about 2 crore people pay tax. Their contribution as a percentage of GDP is about 3.6%. The investment done by the government is almost 3.4%. So one can clearly see, as we have started paying more taxes, the government's investment has started picking up. So your tax is going towards investment to a great extent. This budget focused on investment about 11.11 lakh crore compared to 9,50,000 crore last year. What is this budget also trying to do? Well, the government is making investment, but private sector, the Tatas, the Birlas, the Ambanis, the Adanis, the Jindals, they are not making as much investment. This budget is a request to entrepreneurs that भैया उठ जाओ, निवेश करना चालू करो. If you see fiscal deficit trend, during COVID time it went up, but now it is on its way down. And our investment to GDP ratio of central government is slowly and steadily increasing. Today, the gap between them is 4.9% versus 3.4%, about 1.5%. Hopefully, over a period of time, this will narrow down and become surplus. This budget also focused on employment generation through provision of skills, through incentives for recruiting employees. The whole idea is that growth can be sustained in an inclusive manner. Obviously, this budget came in a coalition politics, and with the kind of announcements for Andhra Pradesh and Bihar, it gives confidence that this government is likely to complete its full term. The budget also reduced import duty on gold. On real estate, there was reduction in holding period for capital gains and also taxation. Put together, debt became a stepson of government. No material tax incentive announced in the budget. It almost looks like as if government wants you to invest in real estate and gold rather than fixed income. There is this proverb, ऊंट की पीठ पे तिनका. This is our capital market. When STT was levied, we were told this is in lieu of capital gains. 2018, STT and capital gains again got combined with introduction of 10% LTCG and 15% STCG. 2024 में STT बढ़ गया, LTCG बढ़ गया, STCG बढ़ गया. Our humble submission to Honorable Finance Minister is, please remember, ऊंट की पीठ पे तिनका. It is that last straw which will break the back of the camel. Please be aware of that and don't overload the camel. Today, between dividend distribution tax, buyback tax, short-term, long-term capital gains tax, and securities transaction tax, there is enough getting taxed in capital market. Another thing which is a bit strange, for years, government's ownership of public sector companies was around 10 lakh crore, and yet the divestment number used to be 50, 60, 70,000 crore. Now, last 4 years, PSU has rallied like crazy. Their market cap from somewhere around 7 lakh crore has grown to 40 lakh crore. And despite that, the divestment has kept on reducing significantly. From being 6 to 8% of their ownership, today divestment will be less than 2%. This divestment was necessary because there are few stocks where floating stock is limited and valuations have become crazy. A bank should not trade like FMCG company, but there are banks which are trading at that crazy valuation. A defense company who has not grown profit in last 3 years has seen their market cap multiplied 7 times. That's not business alone, that's also a result of low floating stock. So government should have focused on increasing divestment by providing float in some of the low float counters. But I guess that was not to happen. This budget also put roadmap for Viksit Bharat, 6 points for economical, next gen reforms, R&D, infrastructure development, energy, urban development, manufacturing and services. And 3 things were political in nature as well as economical, which is agriculture, employment, and social justice. Overall, the budget has been fairly positive for economy, laying long-term roadmap, as well as pursuing the path of fiscal prudence. Now, how does this budget impact our market? Well, today in our market, we are seeing Triveni Sangam. First is earnings growth. Despite slightly subdued results in June 2024 quarter, we believe earnings growth for Indian companies till March 2026 could be easily 15% plus or minus few percentage point here or there. While India looks expensive on a 1-year basis, because of this better earnings growth, it looks cheaper on a long-term basis. The second G is governance. In India's case, there is better corporate governance standards comparable to the Western world, and that gives its premium valuation. Our economy is also transforming in an environmental friendly manner. We remain the lowest per capita carbon emitter in the world. This 3G of growth, governance, and green gives confidence to investors. From a foreigner point of view, Indian market offers fundamentals as earnings growth is visible. It also gives liquidity because retail investors via directly and mutual fund providing a lot of money to the market. And finally, the sentiments are positive for India. Today, everyone wants to be long India. Combination of this positive sentiment, liquidity, and fundamentals also support our market. The retail investors have behaved very, very maturely. When COVID came, it was like one day international. Over 3-4 months, FPIs continued to sell. About 70,000 crore worth of shares were sold, and retail via mutual fund absorbed that. There was a test match period in Russia-Ukraine time. October 21 to June 22, FPI sold 250,000 crore, and yet it was absorbed by the market. There was also T20 match on the election result day. Retail played that game very well by selling on exit poll results and buying it back on election results. If retail plays every game so well, be it one day, be it T20, be it test match, that gives you confidence that retail investors are matured and they will take wise decisions to invest. This market reminds me of 1970s movie अमर अकबर एंथनी. उस फिल्म में गाना था, होनी को अनहोनी कर दे, अनहोनी को होनी, एक जगह पे जमा हो तीनों, अमर अकबर एंथनी. इस मार्केट में भी अमर भाई जैसे स्टॉक्स हैं, अपराइट पुलिस ऑफिसर्स विथ वैल्यू, स्टॉक्स विथ गुड फंडामेंटल्स एंड गुड वैल्यूएशन. यहां पे इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तो पैसा बनेगा. कुछ स्टॉक्स एंथनी भाई जैसे हैं, दिल के अच्छे हैं, बट शॉर्टकट लेते हैं लाइफ में. फंडामेंटल्स आर गुड, but valuations are expensive. This is time to be long Amar Bhai kind of stocks rather than Anthony Bhai kind of stocks. Movie is entertaining undoubtedly, but Anthony to Amar switch will be more beneficial. If we look at market today, 24,000 के आसपास निफ्टी है. In order to go to higher levels, Nifty will have to wait for certain events to happen. The first event is US Fed. Market is discounting that US Fed will cut rates by September 24. If not September, definitely December 24. If Fed rate cut happens as per expectation, obviously market can continue to rise. Market is today discounting मोदी है तो मुमकिन है 5 साल सरकार टिकी रहेगी. Anything to contrary, corrections will come. Market is expecting oil prices to hover at $80 and not go to triple digit $100 plus. If oil remains under control, undoubtedly markets will get supported. Market is expecting good monsoon will support consumption, which has remained subdued for some time. Market is expecting that there will be no flare-up between Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, or China, Taiwan. Things will fall in its own place. And finally, market is expecting earnings to come through. About 1325 rupee earning per share for Nifty 50 next year is something which market is watching. If all these events happen as per market's expectation, we will see slowly and steadily markets moving up. If some of these events happen against market expectation, we'll see them correcting. Where should one invest in today's environment? Go for quality over momentum. Go for high floating stock, diversified ownership over concentrated holding, low floating stock. Go for reasonable fair valuation over expensive valuations. Which sectors provide reasonable valuation? Nifty Bank Index. Many banks last 5 years return are less than their fixed deposits. We believe this is time to accumulate banks over next 2-3 quarters. Their NIMs will bottom out and then stocks could start moving up. Nifty FMCG, if we remove ITC from here, other stocks haven't delivered great return. We believe with consumption revival expected, thanks to good monsoon and good budget, it is time to accumulate consumption stocks. And finally, IT, पिछले साल उन्होंने 60,000 लोगों को जाने दिया था. जब वो लोग आदमी रिक्रूट नहीं कर रहा है तो बिजनेस का क्या भरोसा. इस बार 1 लाख से ज्यादा लोगों को रिक्रूट करेंगे ऐसा बोल रहे हैं. And people are coming from college to their campus to work. Valuations are reasonable. So I think between consumer staple, IT, private banks and select PSUs, we will get our opportunity to invest in quality companies at reasonable valuations. One final thing, when you are investing in Indian equity, always remember this advertisement of Patek Philippe. You never actually own a Patek Philippe, you merely look after it for the next generation. Indian equity is also like that. You are holding it for next generation. Thank you so much and happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Nilesh bhai. I think it covered extremely well the macro as well as the equity market, the sectors and all. So I have one question mainly, is that it's mainly to do with the interest rates. You mentioned that the US Fed is likely to cut rates only between September and December 24. Now we have seen, I think it's now more than, I think since Feb 23 till now, we have maintained our repo rate at 6.5. We have not, and our inflation is actually moderating, but we have not seen any rate cut happening. When do you see a rate cut in India happening? You think post December, before, or much later?
Juzer, by RBI governor's term comes to an end in December 24. If Fed is not cutting rates by then, why will he cut rates before Fed? He will leave it to his successor, which he himself could be, to take that decision. Today, RBI has everything going great guns. Growth is good, inflation is controlled, rupee is stable, banking system is doing well. Why repair something which ain't broken? जो गाड़ी चल रही है चलने दो, छेड़खानी क्यों करे? Whichever way we look at it, it doesn't make sense for RBI to cut rates ahead of US Fed. तेल देखो, तेल की धार देखो. So RBI will take at least 6 months after US has directed its interest rate policy, and then they will take a call whether they should cut rates or not. Certainly rate hikes are out of window right now for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think great. I think that gives a very good, clear answer, and I hope it's addresses for most of the investors because now basically because the debt funds are actually going to take a beating because of the capital gains tax implication. So it makes whether people will have to decide based on that what to do, whether to hold on or play the interest rate cut play, but I don't think that looks likely, at least for the next 6 to 9 months at least. Hmm. Okay. And you did mention about the infra and all that development, and we are also seeing a lot of thematic plays now coming into, on the mutual fund space. Everybody is, I first only thought that, investors had FOMO, but now fund managers also get FOMO. Why should I get left behind when everybody else is also coming out with a theme? So, and I think we had infra as a theme, which, in 2008 was very popular, did not pan out much. Do you see that theme coming back with so much development and so much investment on the infra side?
So, Juzer, as a fund house, I have to keep on launching schemes. Now, everyone wants me to launch a scheme with perfect market timing. अगर मेरे को टाइमिंग आता तो मैं नौकरी क्यों करता, मैं इंट्राडे ट्रेडिंग नहीं करता. I still remember when I was in ICICI Prudential, we had launched ICICI Prudential Infrastructure Fund. It had done extremely well. And then we were a little bit worried on the market. And we said, we will not, get more money in this fund. Around the same time, one of our competitor launched a close-ended fund of infrastructure fund and collected some 4,000-6,000 crore. My salespeople came to me saying that, sir, हम launch करते close-ended infra, वो 4-5 हजार crore लेके आए, हम तो 10,000 crore लेके आएंगे. And I said, no, we don't want to do. My boss was Nilesh Shah. Sales guys obviously reached there. And very nicely he said कि पहले नीलेश से चेक करो टाइम है लॉन्च करने का कि नहीं. He backed me to the hilt, and we didn't launch a fund till May 2008. Now in October 2008, that was Juzer by the best decision. कि आप 2007 दिसंबर में फंड लॉन्च करते, बहुत पैसा आता, अक्टूबर 2008 में आधा कर देते. But today, what is the performance of ICICI Prudential Infra Fund? And क्या फर्क पड़ता था आप अक्टूबर 8 में लॉन्च किए या दिसंबर 7 में लॉन्च किए? जो पैसा डाल के बैठा रहा उसका तो पैसा बन ही गया. तो लिमिटेड पॉइंट है कि हमारा काम है फंड लॉन्च करना, but investor has to take a call whether it makes sense for him to invest or not. And if you are investing, please invest with longer term time horizon. यहाँ पे अमृत काल में विकसित भारत बनना है, बहुत लंबा रास्ता है, उतार चढ़ाव आते रहेंगे, बट जब तक रास्ते पे चलते रहेंगे विकसित भारत की मंजिल पे पहुंच ही जाएंगे.
So it will be a Patek Philip. So, Amarnath, you can ask the question.
Yeah, Nilesh.
Hi.
Okay, this is a bit more very specific. There is one school of thought that this mega internship plan which has been announced in the budget. It's linked to obviously that monies will come out of the CSR part of it, though the government is obviously contributing. But there's also the view that will it just lead to shift in CSR spending by the top 500 companies from other areas like environment, healthcare, disaster relief, school education, whatever they have been spending on, and reallocate it here because now this is the new thing in town. So net, will it really add to something, or it's just taking away from somewhere and reallocating it? So your insights would be useful.
So one, Amarnath bhai, there is not just one scheme, there are multiple schemes. And we'll have to see what are the contours, how it gets activated. Second, if I talk about our own company's CSR budgets and spending, I think there are projects where we are committed on a longer term basis. I can make some adjustments here or there, but I don't think so we will completely withdraw from all those projects. Third, this CSR project does not necessarily get only money. They also get management's time. The best CEOs of the country are looking at those activities and supporting it. तो एक बार आपको आदत लग गई कुछ अच्छा करने की, आप उससे दूर कितनी बार रह पाएंगे? So, will there be some diversion? Yes. Will it be wholesale? Answer is no. All of us are committed to certain CSR activities, certain causes. We have seen how, the benefits trickle down. Now, हम लोग सब अंधेरे में मोमबत्ती जला रहे हैं, कोई सन लेके नहीं आए हैं. बट अगर 5-10 हजार लोग मिलके इतनी मोमबत्ती जला दे तो अंधेरा अपने आप दूर हो जाएगा. So don't jump to conclusion. Let's see the contours of the apprenticeship scheme and then take a call as to how this will shape up.
Fair point. Thank you.
There is a question from the audience. It says that the former FM PC Chidambaram commented in Rajya Sabha and has raised questions to FM on the hunger index, where India ranks 111 out of 125 countries. Are we then really solved the problem of rural population and economy?
Juzer, by who has calculated this hunger index? How many villages they have gone? Have they taken into account 80 crore Indians who are getting free food? जुजैर भाई, मतलब मैं तो कालबा देवी रोड में चौल पे रह के बड़ा हुआ हूं. वहां पे जब भी हमारे यहाँ पे खाना बच जाता था, हम लोग नीचे जाके जो फुटपाथ पे रहते थे उनको दे देते थे, या अपनी ही, लाइक मैं जहाँ पे रहता था चौल में, वहां पे लेबरर्स रहते थे जो चौली के बाहर सोते थे, उनको दे देते थे. आज आप इस तरह फूड बांटने निकलो, कितने लोग मिलेंगे आपको? हैंड ऑन हार्ट जुजैर भाई, आप बोलो, अगर आपको रात को घर फूड जो घर पे बच गया है ज्यादा, वो बांटना है, कहाँ मिलेंगे लोग?
True.
तो कौन से हंगर इंडेक्स की हम बात कर रहे हैं? कब तक ये गोरे की गुलामी सहन करने की? एक गोरा कहीं पे बैठा है, उसकी मोटिवेटेड कैंपेन चल रही है, हमारे देश को खराब दिखाना है उसने, और उसने कुछ छाप दिया. फॉरगेट हंगर इंडेक्स, लुक एट रेटिंग एजेंसीज. हड़प्पा मोहेंजोदड़ो डेज से हमारी इतिहास की कहानी चालू है. जुजैर भाई, हमने किसी को डिफॉल्ट किया आज तक? क्या अलेक्जेंडर को हमने डिफॉल्ट किया जो भारत आया था? कितने लोग आके गए? अंग्रेज को भी डिफॉल्ट नहीं किया हमने. फिर भी रेटिंग एजेंसीज हमें कहती है कि भाई आपकी रेटिंग है BBB. ग्रीस जैसी कंट्री जिसने पिछले 400 साल में 20 बार डिफॉल्ट किया, उसकी रेटिंग हमसे आगे थी एक जमाने में. तो एजेंसीज के नाम देखे बोलते हैं हम मूडी है और हमारे स्टैंडर्ड्स पुअर हैं. उनसे हम कैसे उम्मीद करें इंसाफ की? तो ऐसा नहीं है कि भारत में गरीबी नहीं है, भारत में भूख नहीं है, बट एक समय था लोग बहुत ज्यादा भूख से परेशान थे. आज उसके सामने बहुत अच्छा सुधार हुआ है. जोजेर भाई, आप हिंदी फिल्म के विलन को देखिए. मदर इंडिया में विलन कौन था? मनी लेंडर. फिर वहां से हम पहुंचे कालीचरण में, जहां पे काला बाजारिया विलन था. लास्ट कौन सी मूवी थी जहां पे मनी लेंडर विलन था और काला बाजारिया विलन था? कहते हैं फिल्में समाज का आईना होती है. तो अगर भूख का प्रॉब्लम होता तो काला बाजार होता, काला बाजार होता तो सिंघम में वो पॉलिटिशियन नहीं काला बाजारिया से लड़ता होता. तो अपनी आंखों के सामने जो आपको हंगर इंडेक्स दिखता है वो आप देख नहीं पाते, और कोई गोरा कहाँ पे बैठ के हमारे लिए लिख रहा है उसको आप मानते हो? ऐसा कैसे चलेगा? अपनी आंख कान पे विश्वास करिए.
The question, do you think this increase in capital gain taxes is done and dusted, or we are now open to small increases in the years ahead?
ये तो जुजैर भाई, मैंने कहा ऊंट की पीठ पे तिनका है. ये तो मतलब एक गुजराती में कहावत है कि ડોસી મરી જાય એનું દુઃખ નથી, જમ ઘર ભાણી જાય એનું દુઃખ છે. So if an old person dies, there is no sorrow. But the Yamraj finds my address, that is a bigger worry. So 2.5% is like old lady, chalega. But they should not find our address and do it more. And your prayer and my prayer will be same. When you are evaluating capital market taxation, please take into account dividend tax, buyback tax, STT, and short-term and long-term capital gain. 12.5 और 20 कम लगता है, but if you add all these things, then the numbers are fairly large. So fair taxation is fine. Don't become greedy. And then you may think that मैंने तो 12.5 का सिर्फ 15 किया, ये मार्केट क्यों गिर गया? भाई मार्केट इसलिए गिरा बिकॉज आपने एसटीटी से 15 किया है, 12.5 से 15 नहीं किया है.
Correct. Amala, if you want to have a question. In fact, one person has a question on these taxes will be applicable from the current year only. So it is already applicable.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not from the next financial year. Otherwise, everybody would have booked their profits and then restarted it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Nilesh bhai, this question is slightly more sort of looking ahead from the budget specifics. So I think the one analysis is that broadly you would have had a deeper analysis of it, that in the past 4 odd years, possibly if you split the gains in the index or in the top 500,000 stocks between how much has come from earnings growth and how much has come from P re-rating. So the price earnings re-rating has possibly accounted for anywhere between 40 to 60% of it, depending on which sector and which stocks. So have this re-rating having been done, can it sustain, or we should readjust or recalibrate to, now the stock returns being linked more to the earnings rather than having this, bonus coming through?
So Amarnath bhai, for Nifty to get re-rated from current level, we need mania, we need euphoria, we need craziness like Harshad Mehta time, Ketan Parekh time. When people lose their sense, then yes, re-rating can happen. Today, in some counters, that frenzy is visible. A PSU bank is trading at FMCG company valuation. A defense company is trading at century valuation. But the broad market is still not crazy. It is still around historical averages. So my feeling is that to assume markets will go crazy is a bit difficult to assume. It can happen, but that can't be my base case. So I will say from here onwards, returns will come from earnings growth, not from valuation re-rating, bearing one or two sectors like banks, which are trading below historical PE ratio.
That was very neatly put. Thank you.
So there's one question in the chat. In fact, when we did talk on infra, saying while we are looking at bank, IT, and consumer, why no infra stock where emphasis is on infra? So do you see that thing playing up?
Juzer bhai, whatever is known to the market is already discounted.
Okay.
Prices move based on unknown things happening or things which are discounted happening in a different manner, different direction. Now, infrastructure focus of government is very well known. Road, railway, water, that was known to the market. In this budget, they have put little bit focus on power. BHEL and NTPC joint venture, nuclear reactor, supercritical technology, renewable energy. But again, is that something unknown to the market? No. We were looking at power shortages, high utilization of power plants, and getting that view that now power will do well. So why we are not emphasizing on infrastructure sector? Because all the good news are already factored into the prices. In private banks, in FMCG, in IT, we expect turnaround, and the bad news factored into prices may give way to good news, which is why we are looking to invest over there.
Okay. There is one question I don't completely understand it, but it's a bit indexation benefit withdrawn, whether we should not invest in debt MF at all, since inflation adjusted return will be 2% or zero, and still one has to pay tax on long-term capital gains at 12.5% on profits as books. So I think that there's no 12.5 you have to pay as per your tax slab, right? I mean, right? But so what
Yeah.
is your take on debt funds now?
So Juzer bhai, all debt investments done before 31st March 2023, they were grandfathered from a taxation point of view in 2024. But post 23rd July 2024, if you have completed 2 years of investment, then the gains will be taxed at 12.5% as LTCG. So invested before 31st March 23, redeemed after 23rd July, more than 2 years investment, you pay tax at 12.5% on gains. Any investment done after the 1st April 2023, there is no short-term, long-term capital gain. Whatever income you earn, you pay tax as per your slab rates. So people who are not into taxation net, they can consider debt fund. People who are into lower tax net, 5%, 10%, 15%, they can consider debt fund. But people who are into higher taxation, they should consider funds like equity savings fund, where about 25 to 30% is average equity allocation, 35% is average arbitrage position, and 35% is debt allocation. Collectively, it gives a return like fixed income, but it has a taxation impact of an equity fund. Your gains will be taxed at 12.5% beyond 1 year investment, and hence higher tax bracket guy should go towards equity savings fund.
Okay. One thing is there on the, we have this new regime and the old regime, right? And what I've noticed is that, the old regime has all the exemptions, and the new regime is supposed to be without any of the exemptions. But it seems very surprising that the finance minister is now allowing a higher standard deduction in a new regime. The NPS contribution has been increased to 14% over there. I mean, do you see any rationale or any logic of again having these two things, parallel running, and instead of simplicity, we are making it more complicated.
So, Juzer bhai, politics is the art of possibility. You have to respect electoral mandate. Salaried employees are a large vote bank, more than 4 crore people. Maybe they can influence another 2 people in their family. So 4 into 3, 12 crore people. You have to respect their needs. I'm sure there will be many members of parliaments who have voiced concern on behalf of their constituency of salaried employees, that they are finding that government is not looking at them. So this is more of a political decision than economical decision.
Okay. Amarnath, do you have any question?
Yeah, I think you would have more insights on what are the FII reactions, the actual investors, the big names, what are they saying after the budget, particularly in the light of any worries on taxation issues that they are now coming to the front burner from being on the back burner for so many years. Your insights.
So Amarnath bhai, today in India, we don't have a single animal called FPI. There are hedge funds, there are long only funds, there are global emerging market funds, there are global funds, there are active funds, there are passive funds, there are sovereign funds, there are, thematic funds. Plus, we have Japanese investors, Southeast Asian investors, Middle Eastern investors, American investors, European investors, English investors, Latin American investors, South African investors. All these people, among all these complex products, take their view. It's quite likely that Englishmen may find budget good, American may find it bad, Japanese may want to invest, Latin American might want to sell. So let's forget that we will be able to measure FPI as one animal. It is now like Hydra, multifaceted, organ. Second, if you see foreigners, they are split between Sasta versus Sundar. When they compare valuations, India looks expensive. Russia trades 1/8 valuation of India. China trades 1/3 valuation of India. Brazil is 1/2 valuation of India. तो उनको लगता है कि यार महंगा खरीदे क्या. But when they look at our earnings growth potential, our governance practices, the liquidity of our market, they find कि यार ये तो बहुत अच्छी कंट्री है, इससे अच्छा मौका कहाँ मिलेगा. तो कभी सस्ता देख लेते हैं तो बेच देते हैं, सुंदर देख लेते हैं तो खरीद लेते हैं. And if you see their behavior over last almost a year, if I remember correctly, सितंबर खरीदा, सितंबर 23 में खरीदा, अक्टूबर नवंबर में बेचा, दिसंबर में क्रिसमस वेकेशन मनाने की जगह पे खरीदा, जनवरी में बेच दिया, फरवरी और मार्च खरीदा, अप्रैल में बेच दिया, मई में बेच दिया, जून जुलाई खरीदा. तो ये तो एक ड्रंकन आदमी कैसे चलेगा वो हमें प्रिडिक्ट करना है. लेफ्ट जाएगा, राइट जाएगा, राइट जाएगा, लेफ्ट जाएगा, ऐसे ही चलता रहेगा.
So, your last how would you rate the budget?
सो जुजर भाई, मैं तो सिर्फ एक ही चीज पे बजट को रेट कर रहा हूं कि इसके मतलब कितना प्रेशर होगा फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर की, भाई यहाँ पे पैसा बचाओ, यहाँ पे पैसा बांटो, वहां पे बांटो, ये करो वो करो. After all those political pressure and pull, she has given a budget which tackles India's problem: fiscal prudence, investment, and employment generation. Of course, there are some sour points for us like capital gains tax,
Correct.
but fair enough. सबकी सब इच्छाएं तो पूरी नहीं होगी. As an equity investor, I am happy that with this budget, my valuation has gone up. I have to pay a little bit extra tax, so be it. And कल किसी ने बहुत अच्छा लिखा कि जो लोग 100 के पी का स्टॉक खरीद रहा है उसे 2.5% टैक्स की चिंता है. भाई नजर बदल, 100 के पी पे ध्यान दे. 100 का पी 50 का हो गया, 50% उड़ जाएगा. 2.5% के लिए क्यों रो रहा है. So overall, it's a very good budget. The path of fiscal prudence is what we have to follow. And that will ensure that our kids will have better India than us.
So I know you are absolutely short on time. So
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it was very insightful. And I think as you had mentioned, na, you actually said कि सिप करो, सबकी इच्छा पूरी.
सबकी इच्छा पूरी.
So thank you, Nilesh bhai, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time out. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you for joining in.